Hey, it's Ollie, and in this video we're going to be talking about culture and whether culture is important to language learning or not. Now, it seems like an obvious question, right? Of course culture is important to language learning. How could it not be? And yet someone asked me recently, can I just learn this language without learning about the culture? So I was thinking, at first I didn't really understand what that question meant, but then I realized that there are lots of people out there who kind of want to learn a language as a kind of intellectual exercise, or perhaps because they need to know some of the language to pass an exam or get a job or something like that. And so that then is kind of an interesting question. Do I have to learn about the culture? Maybe you're not interested in the culture of the language you're learning, which is an interesting situation to be in. I've certainly never found myself in that particular situation. Now, first thing is, clearly it is possible to learn some of the language without learning about the culture. You can get your textbook and you can go through the textbook. You can learn a bunch of words and phrases and how the grammar works, and you can probably get to a fairly good conversational level in the language without particularly knowing about the culture. However, you're almost certainly going to find that after I'd say a kind of intermediate level, or certainly when you want to actually come and talk to someone and actually interact with someone, with a real person, then you're going to very quickly find the culture is absolutely indispensable. Because here's the thing, when you interact with people, that's when the culture really comes into play. The language itself, it can exist on a page, it can exist in a set of rules, in a grammar dictionary, but the language as a living, breathing thing that we use between people, that's something that it's not just about the words you use, it's about the people you're talking to, the society they live in, the food they eat, all these things, and the history, the weather, the list goes on and on and on. And there's so many examples that I can think of my own language learning where the culture has been absolutely indispensable. I mean, just to pick a few off the top of my head, in Japan, for example, there are all kinds of social situations, like where you sit down to eat, where the things that you're actually supposed to say, it's kind of almost a fixed routine of things that you're supposed to go through. And if you go out to eat with someone, then you're supposed to compliment the menu in the right way. People have to sit down in a certain order. There's a certain etiquette towards how you look at the menu and how you order, who orders, all these things. And this has nothing to do with the words. It's all about the culture. Similarly if you take a language like Cantonese, for example, so much of your daily interactions with people, the first thing in Cantonese, when you meet someone for the first time, the first thing you ask them is, "Have you eaten yet?" That's the phrase that you use. And so that is not something that makes sense to us as English speakers, and yet that is the way that you greet someone in Cantonese, because the food and the culture, the food is so much part of the culture, and therefore that affects the language and the words that you use. So you can learn the language without learning about the culture, but unless you have very specific reasons to do so, you absolutely must learn about the culture at the same time, because that's going to affect everything that you do when it comes to actually speaking with people. All right, hope that was helpful. See you in the next video.